Okay, Justin Duckham, my good friend at the Talk Radio News Service, is on the line from our Washington Bureau. Today the debate began on the repeal of health care reform. Justin, was it a kinder and gentler debate up on Capitol Hill?
Well, it's hard to say whether or not it's kinder or gentler when you're dealing with health care reform. This typically tends to be a pretty heated issue on both sides. And although it's been sort of civil on the House floor, we have seen some signs from the White House that this will not go as smoothly as they believed. Essentially, you saw Robert Gibbs today dismissing the repeal push, saying that this is not a serious legislative attempt, and essentially just kind of slapping down the Republicans. So it's been a pretty interesting scene here in D.C.
Well, it is a serious attempt because they probably will be successful in the House, and they may be successful in the Senate, although they can't override a veto. But this is going to be perhaps the defining issue in the presidential campaign, is it not? And is that not why both sides are digging in their heels on this?
Exactly. That's why it's such an important issue for both sides. It is one of the Obama administration's key legislative achievements, and nobody is really willing to let it stand as it is, on the Republican side at least. So the White House certainly is digging in their heels. However, it really is unlikely that this is going to be anything more than a symbolic vote. The Republicans do not have the votes in the Senate to move it forward, and Obama has signaled that he will veto it if it lands on his desk.
But it would be a huge boost to the Republican agenda, political agenda, if they are successful tomorrow in repealing it.
Well, it could also kind of backfire. It could be interpreted as, Republicans just doing, kind of pointless gestures, just kind of beating their chests and holding symbolic votes without actually, expecting anything substantive to come out of it. There's some other legislation that's coming up this week, such as a symbolic vote that Cantor is pushing that would essentially just require House members to pledge to return spending levels to to the pre-Obama era, and so that will likely, appease and boost the morale of the, of the base of the Republican Party. But as far as bringing anything substantive, that probably will not move forward. So right now we're seeing a bunch of symbolic votes, and that has the ability to possibly irritate the base who voted for action and not just gestures.
But Justin Duckham, the last time I saw John Boehner, the new Speaker of the House, interviewed about the issue of returning things to previous spending levels, he was asked, well, where would you make cuts? And he looked like a deer in the headlights. He really didn't have an answer to that question.
And that's why it's going to be such an interesting thing to see this move forward. There has been some talks about removing budgets or limiting the budgets from the Commerce Department as well as the Education Department and possibly the Environmental Protection Agency and NASA. But as far as the spending cuts that are needed to bring it down to pre-Obama levels, it's going to require cuts that are much larger than anybody is going to feel comfortable with.
All sounds well and good until you're sitting at home and you learn from your school district that you have to purchase the books that your kids are needing for their textbooks because, or you're learning from your school district that there are 35 or 40 kids to a classroom and they're not learning because the class sizes are so overwhelming because of those kinds of cuts, right? So is it really that easy when you get down to the nitty-gritty? Isn't it easier to talk about making cuts, but isn't it more difficult when you get down to the details to actually implement the cuts because you're always hurting somebody down the line and they're not going to be pleased about that?
Well, no one said it's going to be easy to bring the spending levels down to the pre-Obama era. In fact, that is going to be a major challenge if they actually move forward with it. And what a lot of commentators and what a lot of observers are realizing is if you want to limit spending to that level, you're going to have to make cuts to the defense budget. And that is something that Republicans are standing firm against. So as a result, if this is actually going to move forward, there are going to be drastic cuts on a bunch of other non-defense agencies. Whether or not that's really going to fly over well with the public, or if that's really going to find final support, remains to be seen. But they are certainly walking on a thin line where they could end up alienating a lot of the people who supported them. And there could be a lot of people who were in the Tea Party who may realize that one man's earmark is another man's treasure, and they could be seeing the bat in this one.
Justin Duckham from the Talk Radio News Service in Washington, D.C., even the Secretary of Defense, Robert Gates, says there can and should be cuts to his own budget.
He has said that, but the Congress has been reluctant to listen to the person who's in charge of the Defense Department, ironically. Gates has floated killing several weapons programs that have essentially been deemed wasteful and inefficient, including some Joint Strike Fighters, as well as the Marines amphibious vehicles. However, a lot of these things are made within individual representatives' districts, and they don't quite see how these things could be wasteful, since it essentially puts bread on the table for their constituents. So although the Defense Secretary may have some very vocal opinions about this, it's unlikely that the Republicans are going to move behind it.
Interesting stuff going on in Washington, D.C., as always, and a very comprehensive report, as always, as well. Justin Duckham from the Talk Radio News Service, our Washington Bureau. Thanks for joining us on News Talk Online on the Paltalk News Network.
Have a good one.